Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today we're talking about the fees you are paying within the TSP. Now, you may not have known you're paying fees in the TSP because it's invisible. These sort of fees are invisible most of the time. Today we're going to talk about exactly what you're paying. But before you get mad about paying fees to the TSP for investing it, we're going to talk about today how that compares to if you were to invest outside the TSP, the actual dollar amounts we're talking about here, and how it affects you now and in retirement. That's what we're going to dive into today. Welcome. If you're new here, my name is Dan Haas. I'm a financial planner who serves federal employees just like you every single day to help them retire comfortable and confident. So let's dive right in. If you're familiar with the TSP at all, you know there are 5 core funds, which they are listed right here. We got the G Fund, F Fund, C Fund, S, and I, okay? Now, there are some other investment options in the TSP, as you probably know. There is the mutual fund window. However, the mutual fund window has much more fees associated. Okay, there's annual fees, there's maintenance fees, there's all kinds of fees, plus the underlying fees you pay in those funds tend to be a lot higher than what we're looking at today. So you could go check my video out on the mutual fund window, but long story short, I'm not a huge fan for lots of reasons, but you're welcome to go check that out to figure out why. Now, some people might ask, hey, what about the L funds? Do those have fees? And the answer is yes, they have fees. The reason I'm not going to cover them is because the L funds are just a combination of these 5 underlying funds. So they're just going to be a combination of the 5 underlying fund fees. Okay, the L funds aren't anything unique by themselves. They just have a different mixture, different proportion of these 5 core funds in them. Okay, so let's dive in. If you didn't know before, every time you put money into a fund to invest in, it costs money to do that. The reason is every fund out there, it requires some sort of management to provide the fund. It costs the TSP money to run operations, right? To do everything that needs to happen to offer the TSP to you, okay? And the way they pay for that is through TSP fees. Now, this is not unique to TSP. This is what all funds do for the most part. There's a few exceptions that have 0 fees, but there's certainly strings attached to those as well. Okay, we'll talk about that as well. But within the TSP, there's no funds with 0 fees. So let's talk about what the fees are. So as you see right here, this chart shows percentages, and that is what the fees are. Basically, they charge a percentage of the amount of money you have in each fund. Okay, so for example, as you see, there's different types of fees, but the column you want to pay attention to right here is the bottom row, okay, bottom row. And basically it says the total expense ratio. So everything added together, what's the total fee? Long story short, for example, for the F fund, you pay 0.078%. So 0.087%, I can't speak, 0.078% of whatever you have in the F fund is going to be charged in a fee every single year. Okay, it's an annual fee. On an annual basis, you get charged 0.078% whatever you have in the F fund, for example, right? That's how it works. Now, let's look at what this actually comes out to in dollar amounts so we could put this in perspective, okay? So right here, I have a handy dandy spreadsheet. So as an example, let's say you have $500,000 in the TSP, so $500,000. Let's say your TSP fee is 0.059. So that's the same fee as, for example, the C fund, okay? The C fund here. If that's the fee for you, so if you have money in the C fund, let's say you have $500,000 in the C fund, what would you pay? So if it's 0.059% in dollars, that means you pay about $295 every single year to invest in the C fund, okay? So I'm not sure if that's more or less than you expected, but that's what you pay, okay? That's what you pay. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is, okay, what if you invested in something very similar to the C fund outside the TSP? How will that stack up? Now, Vanguard has a really good fund. VOO is the ticker symbol, and it's just the Vanguard S&P 500. So it's investing in the exact same things that the C fund is, okay? And the fee over here is 0.03%. So if we compare it, the outside TSP fee is 0.03%, which comes to about $150 every single year. So it is about $150 less than what someone might pay for the C fund in the TSP. However, It really varies a lot. Outside the TSP, there aren't just 5 options anymore. There's thousands of options. And to be frank, right, the TSP fees are exceptionally low compared to averages outside the TSP. Exceptionally low. So in general, the TSP is still a very good deal. Okay, it's still, the fees are very, very low. Now, can you find funds outside the TSP that maybe are a little better, like in this example? Yes, it's possible. It's possible. You go find the very cheapest funds out there. Yes, it's possible. It's possible. So if you know what you're doing, right? If you know what you're looking for, which hopefully by watching some of these videos, you get a better idea of what you're looking for, then you could find the ones that have really low fees. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not opposed to fees. I pay fees for things all the time in my life and in my business, right? What I care about, though, is what do I get for those fees? What do I get for those fees? So that's the sort of thing you want to ask yourself is, hey, look, in the TSP, I pay XYZ fee. Is that worth it to me to stay in the TSP compared to what you can get somewhere else, right? Is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? Paying a fee is not bad, right? Going to buy groceries, you're not mad about paying for the groceries because it's worth it, right? It's worth it. Or going to a restaurant, you're not because it's worth it. You have to decide, okay, is the value I'm getting from this fee worth the fee? And if it is, great, we're good to go, right? If you say no, hey, look, I'd rather be in an IRA in retirement because I could find ones that maybe are a little cheaper, and I get no extra value for being in the TSP, then hey, maybe think about that. But again, there's lots of different rules that compare, lots of different rules in the TSP and in IRAs, and there's lots of other things to consider. I've got other videos on TSP versus IRA, but today I want to focus on the fee. So now this was just comparing the fees for something like the C fund here, right? If you want to look at the other funds, you could certainly search around the internet to find funds that are similar to, for example, the F fund, S fund, I. Now the G fund is relatively unique. You can't replicate it perfectly outside the TSP. You can get close, but not perfectly. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now these other funds, the F fund, S and I, you can replicate basically identically outside the TSP if you wanted. Again, if you wanted. There's a lot of perks to the TSP. The TSP is simple, especially while you're working. Your money, generally speaking, should stay in the TSP, okay, with very few exceptions. So hopefully that helps you understand what you actually pay in fees in the TSP, so that now when someone talks about it, you can actually do the math like, look, how much money are we actually talking about every single year? So I hope that's helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put it in the comments below. We'll do our best to create future content based on the questions you guys have. So I hope that's helpful. Have an incredible rest of your day. We'll see you guys next time.